Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, here with Kenny Simpson, and we are joined tonight by good friend and returning guest, Coach Bo Collins. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Just finished watching some 10-year-old softball and baseball games and trying to relax and enjoy the last little bit of the year before summer starts and you're running to team camp and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, Arkansas's already finished with spring ball, right? Y'all been done.
Yeah,
we're done.
It's done. I think the last of the local teams here just right around me finished up with their spring game tonight. So it's all being packed away and put away. Time for summer workouts and 7-on-7 and trying to start getting ready for the season.
Yeah, we're in our second of 2 weeks of spring right now. We got a spring game tomorrow night, so this Friday. This comes out in 2 weeks, so right around the first week or so of June. But yeah, man, it's been fun. It is about to get hectic, though. This is kind of the calm before the storm. After tomorrow night, I think we get a week off before we start Summer Pride, and then you're still trying to work some drills and get some conditioning in and go to 7-on-7. It's about to get wild again. So I guess I get to take a break from it and disappear for 2 weeks into the woods with the Army, which I'm not sure that I absolutely love anymore, but I guess it gets you away from coaching for a touch. Kind of let you refresh, not dealing with installs and kids and all the goodness. Well, guys, we come tonight to talk kind of a more serious topic. I guess X's and O's are still pretty serious, and that's what we usually end up talking. But as the podcast has been known to do, we like to talk some serious things, more philosophical or however you want to put it, right? Culture stuff. So tonight we're kind of talking culture amongst coaches, really. And what we're going to talk about is just the quality of job that you're at and how you compare two jobs against each other. There's coaching carousel. Coach Collins said it a minute ago. The thing, it seems like it never quits spinning right up until I have been hired. I think, Bo, you hired me in July, right?
I did. It was late July, I think, too.
Yeah, I've been hired late, where I'm trying to learn the system for game one or whatever. Okay, so I know it never truly quits spinning, but we thought it had slowed down, and here it is picking right back up again. Lots of head coaches switching jobs. So by the time this comes out, hopefully everybody's locked in their head coach. Man, if you're taking it in late June to the head guy, that's gonna be chaotic. But
there's at least two or three in Arkansas that are still empty right now. So there's that's not a good place to be.
How many is it?
At least 2 or 3 that I'm aware of, and Bo may know some more, but I know 2 or 3, and that's not where you want to be.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit tonight. Coach Simpson, before we get started, why don't you tell us some ways that we can simplify ball for our staff and our players? This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Dell in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com. What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. You're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for your that new stadium, or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Now, really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you.
Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials, and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
All right, thank you, Coach. Guys, once again, just a reminder to reach out to those people that we have on as sponsors, because that's stuff we truly believe in. If you're in the need for fundraising, it's a little late in the season to get a video board this year, but it's a great time to start planning. Maybe you can double them up and work with your basketball or your baseball, whoever else you need, to help fundraise. If you do it as a complete athletic program, whatever. But it's still a wonderful tool to use. So reach out to Mark and let those guys at Ace Sports hook you up with the video boards are beautiful, and they just work so well. You know what I mean? As a fundraiser, as a thing that builds the community around. So it's a pretty neat deal. Awesome. First question here, Coach. So we'll jump right in. Coach Collins, you're the guest. You get to speak first tonight. Congratulations. So when you're thinking about a quality football job at any level, head coach, coordinator, assistant, what kind of stands out to you? What defines a quality job?
I think as an assistant coach, I was looking for jobs where I was going to be challenged. I wanted a job that I was going to be pushed to grow, pushed to learn new things or take on new responsibilities. I didn't want to have a job where I could just come in and exist and everyone was going to be happy with me. That doesn't fit your goals to advance a career or even just advance your skills at coaching. And then when I made that move to head coach, I think that first job was really about, I need to find that job where I can get the job and have a shot at being successful, not necessarily walking into something that I'm going to win the conference or, make a deep run, but find something where I can define what success is going to mean for that place and it be something that could be attainable.
Yeah, I think something I learned already, because I'm going into year 5. I've applied for and interviewed for head coaching jobs, but I pretty much was told right off, right, was good jobs don't come open. So you're not going to most likely have a shot at anything that's going to be a success story this year. You know what I mean? And I'm talking to the public. Playoff wins, making a deep run in the playoffs, whatever. It just doesn't seem like that's a real thing for especially a new head coach, a first-year head coach. Obviously, right now there's some programs opening up that, recently in our area that were a good program, and they got filled by coaches with, the resume to get a good program head coaching job. So I think that's really neat that you were looking for. Yeah, I want some first-year success, but what is quality job for a first-year head coach is having head coach next to your name. Kenny, what do you kind of look for when you define quality of a job?
Yeah, and I'll speak mainly to head coach, because I know assistant. I think with coach hit the nail on the head. A chance to move up, chance to be recognized. If you're an assistant, a chance to grow. A chance to maybe eventually become a head coach. Those are all important things. And I think when I'm looking to hire assistants, that's the stuff they want to know. Do I have a chance to move up? Are you going to help me get, grow in my career? And those are questions you need to ask. As far as a head coach, I've got a couple things on here, so kind of bear with me. I think number one, is you've got to have realistic expectations. Coach kind of mentioned that. Like when you said, what's really realistic that we could achieve, and not just from you, but from the administration and really even from the school. Some of the worst jobs, I know we're probably going to have a bad job section here in a minute, so I don't want to go too far there, but some of the worst jobs you can take are traditionally great programs that don't have the talent they used to have, because the expectations are way up here and the reality is way down here. That's why it's also never good to follow a legend. I know I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on our questions, but so realistic expectations. I think you got to have resources, and that can take a lot of different ways. What does your staff look like, or what is your ability to hire a good staff? What's already on staff? That's the biggest resource that you have as a head coach, minus players, which is number two. What do your resources look like as far as athletes? I mean, do you have guys that can compete at the level you're going to compete at? Then you have other resources like facilities. What are your facilities and equipment needs? Weight room, what does that look like? Are they willing to give you resources where you can grow? If you don't have what you need, can you go get it? So those are big questions you have to have. Then the support from the administration. That's a huge resource. What does that support look like? One of the quotes I put in one of the books I've written is, I think coaches can win conferences, but I think administrations win championships. I think that when you see teams that win state championships consistently, not a flash in the pan 1 year deal, but like a consistent program, their administration gives the resources needed for that program to be successful. It's not always just the coach. It's what is the coach able to do? What kind of resources are available? Third thing I put down is just simple, is the ability to win. Everything is comparable. If you move into inner city Detroit, you're going to have a bunch of D1 athletes, but so is everybody else. You move into rural Oklahoma or Arkansas or rural wherever, you may only have 3 or 4 real good athletes, but what does everybody else have? Like, are you playing at a level field, or are you going into a gun show with a fork? That's kind of what you have to figure out. Do you have the horses to run the race? Are you going to have a chance to win? That needs to be asked, because believe it or not, when you win, things are a lot easier as a coach. And when you don't win, not as easy. I put down just area of the country. I think a lot of times a guy will take a job you can compete at, and your family is miserable because they don't want to live there. I think that's something you really have to take into consideration. A lot of really good high school coaches that probably could have had, better jobs if they were willing to move, and their family doesn't want to because they like where they are. And so I think that's a big factor, quality of life. You're going to coach football for however many months, but then you're going to live in that community, and maybe if you're lucky, you're going to live there for 10, 12, 20 years. Is that a place you want to raise your family? And so that's a big thing. I put down the schedule. What does your schedule look like? And I mean your teaching schedule. So I know some of the guys that listen to this podcast, you're full-time employees, so you can just disregard this part. But in the South, a lot of times the coach is a full-time teacher. It's very common out in this direction. And so to me, what does that look like? Are they asking you to teach, 4 science classes, and you're not going to be with your athletes in the morning? Or are you getting the Coach Simpson schedule where you walk in and you have football in the morning, football in the afternoon, football at the end of the day, and you're teaching 1 or 2 classes that are on a non-tested subject? Or doing driver's
Sign me up for that. How do I get that?
You win a lot of games. Yeah, you win a lot of games. That's how that works. Because I didn't get that schedule when I showed up. I had to win, leave, and come back for them to give me that. So it took a bit.
But it took your success with you. Come back.
That's right. That's kind of how that works. Then, Coach mentioned, I wrote it down to the opportunity to grow. And that the way I look at that is, are they going to pay for us to take my assistant coaches and clinic them? So not just me grow, am I going to have the opportunity to grow these other coaches, or are they going to make all these guys coach 3 sports and not give us any money to go advance ourselves? Are they not going to allow me to hold them accountable during football. If you have a staff where they can do what they want to do and they're not really answering to you, that's not good either. And what about visiting other schools? And then the last one I put on here was autonomy. I think, are you going to have the ability to make decisions for your program? And obviously, you need to run some of them up the chain. But for the most part, can you make a decision that this is what we're going to do? Like, we're putting this guy off our team, or we're going to move this coach here, and have the ability to be able to make that decision, or do you not have it? It's one way or the other. And if you don't know if you have it, you don't. So that's kind of the answer to that one. Do you have the autonomy to kind of do what you think is right? Do they trust you at that point? So in my mind, and there's probably more things we could list, that's kind of where we'd start. And I didn't even really mention it, but are they going to pay you market value for what you're able to do? Because let's be honest, teachers and coaches are probably the worst paid people on the planet that I know of that went and got a 4-year degree. And so we feel guilty in the education world to ask for more money. But the reality is that job, in my opinion, other than superintendent, the football coach will sway the culture of the school more than any other person on the campus. And I don't shy away from that opinion.
That's a really good opinion. Sports in general, coaches in general. I saw a really good quote today dealing with this topic, and it said, it's not extracurricular activities, it's co-curricular activities, right? Your school needs sports way more than sports needs your school. So basically treat them right? And bring in the good coaches. Pay the extra money, because it's going to pay off. It's going to pay huge dividends. I don't know how many students a good coach can bring from other schools too, right? Like, you start talking about dollars per body in seats. How many dadgum players are going to move into an area because of a coach? And so what are you paying them, right? To increase your
and look at it from the school board section. And this is from the admin here. I would talk to an admin and say, how many at-risk kids can I save that no teacher in this school can save? And I think the football coach is probably at the top of the list of, they don't come grab the math teacher out of class and say, one of your math students did something dumb, we need you to handle them. But I get that conversation about weekly, about having to handle one of those kids as an at-risk kid that they know I can get through and I can kind of push them to graduation. And it's not me, it's that position. That position has the ability to impact a ton of kids.
So I'm kind of looking at this as a coordinator position job. So it's kind of neat that we can hit it all from 3 different sides from our current positions. I think culture is one, right? So what are you walking into? Because I'll be honest, like, I'm a first-year OC. I brought a system with me. I've seen what it can do at different levels of football with all freshman team, varsity teams. I know what the system can do. That doesn't mean it's going to be a successful system at this school, right? I still have to have the key pieces in place. I've got to be able to coach it. I have to be able to coach the coaches to coach it. And so what is that culture? Is it I've kind of gotten away from this, and it's mainly because of what Joe says, but you don't call yourself a football school or a baseball school, right? Because if you call yourself a basketball school tonight, you are you're disrespecting those kids that just sit in the weight room in football all year long, because it makes them seem like they aren't good enough to be in basketball, so they are just football players, right? But I want to know, is the culture of the school like, yeah, we do that here. Football is something we do here. It matters. Kids come out. Summer, I'm not going to have to drag kids out of their bed for summer pride, right? So what is that football culture like at that school? Athletes, you already covered. I won't hit on that one too much. You just want to make sure you've got the key pieces you need, right? You need 1 or 2 guys that can go get it, and then you can build around that. And I have confidence in my coaching that we're going to bring kids to the standard. I have also identified kids that you can't get there, right? That's a different package kid. So understanding that exists, how many of those do you have to have? I want to know what my limits are. So if I'm looking for a quality job, I want to sit down with the head coach and he says, hey, listen, you're going to be the OC. We want to score points. Go make it work. I'm going to let you do you. If I have any questions, I'll come in and I'll ask my questions. We may have to, revert to some things, may have to change or tweak here or there. But in the most part, I want you to go do what you do. Because I've been hired for jobs as a DC, and I was not allowed to do that. I've been given a playbook, right? and not even at the beginning of the year, like mid-season, hey, here's a new playbook for you to go learn now, and we're going to run this from now on. That's not a good quality of job, right? When that happens, I immediately shut down as a coach because I'm like, what are we doing wrong? Is it me? Is it the system? We should have communicated this. So that is not quality for me. The head coach's resume matters, right? It's very hard to take a coordinator job under a guy that is either a brand new head coach or is running away from stuff. Maybe it's a situation they put themselves in. Maybe it's a losing record. Whatever it is, they've built a bad culture at another school. So I kind of want to know. I've been lucky enough that Bill Blankenship is in my coaching tree, right? Bo Collins, who's on the show here right now, was in my coaching tree. These are guys that, like, Coach Collins didn't have the experience in wins and losses and seasons as head coach. It was his first year. But I immediately understood what he brought to the program. He was serious about football. Bill Blankenship has got 6 championship rings on his fingers. I'm absolutely okay following that guy. You know what I mean? We'll follow into battle. Check the box. And then which ones are just kind of terrible people? You don't want terrible people in your coaching tree, right? I don't want to go try to just survive and exist at a school for a year. I want to go and prosper and be a part of that school, be a part of that community. Community is the next one. What is the community outlook? Unfortunately, we've been in a place that community was not good, right? We're talking screaming, cussing from the stands down into the field, recording injured players because it was like they were going to put it on YouTube, I guess. I don't know. Facebook living injured players because that was really cool. Like, that's not a good community. Can't get bonds passed. Has that school tried to improve itself and the community just won't get behind it recently? Because that's not a job you probably want to take. And that might be any level, head coach, assistant, coordinator, whatever. So what does that community look like? Is there pressure on you to do your job hyper successfully? And Coach Simpson, you kind of talked about this with that, realistic expectations. Are you a 1A school that has maybe one kid, maybe no kids that can just go, but the expectation from the parents are 10-0, 35 points a game? Hey, we want the air raid offense here. We don't want this wing T stuff, or we don't want to run the ball anymore. We want to see it thrown around. Kids are quitting the team because there's not enough passes. Kids are quitting the team because you went 0-10 and 5-5 and 0-10 the last 3 years, right? Like, that's why kids are quitting the team. That's bad culture. So, Nikita, you said it, winning helps. But is that community something's going to get behind you, or are they going to be a hindrance? Are they going to be a roadblock for you to find that success? Second question here. Sorry. Why should we, as coaches, really worry about that job quality? And Coach Simpson, we'll start with you here tonight on this one.
Well, I think ultimately as a head coach, and I don't know, what is our last question so I don't get ahead of here too far down? I probably should.
How do you compare current situation versus another job?
So I could talk about bad jobs. We're not going to overlap. Okay.
Yeah, this is the great place to do it.
To me, I think a lot of times as a head coach, you mentioned it right at the beginning of the show. What you were told is there aren't really always good jobs, and I don't know all those details, but I know this: there are a lot of bad jobs. Like, there are a lot of jobs that are not good jobs for a lot of the reasons that we listed before. And if you get stuck in one of those jobs, it's kind of like sinking sand or quicksand. It's really difficult to get out of that because the stench of that can last longer than you want. And there's a couple things that can hurt you in those jobs. One is losing. If you're a head coach and it's your first job and you go 0-10, it's going to be difficult to overcome that. You're going to have to stay there for a while and kind of show what you can do. And I can speak from experience. I took a job in Arkansas that was not a good job at the time and had a lot of the other good qualities. But as far as the athlete part and the resources part, we weren't quite there yet. It didn't mean it was a bad job, but it meant we had a really bad year. And that meant there's not a lot of opportunities around for me. I basically stayed. We did really enjoy where we are, and of course I'm still there and we love it. But it wasn't like there were other opportunities for 4 or 5 years. Even though we kind of were able to turn it around, I didn't start to get the phone calls for 4 or 5 years because it took a while to establish, okay, we've turned this place into something else. So taking a bad job or a job where you're not going to win can cost you quite a bit of time. So that's one thing. Second thing, to me is what it puts your family through. I don't think a lot of people quite understand how bad a job can really hurt your family for a lot of reasons. One, you're miserable, which means everyone's miserable. Two, they have to go sit in the stands and hear it, and you'll walk around the community and hear it. So if you get stuck in one of those bad jobs, that can be really, really detrimental. I mean, imagine having a 10-year-old kid who's hearing how dumb their dad is. That's tough. And so you got to be really careful kind of on choosing the right job to try to avoid that. And by the way, even the best job in the world, you're still an idiot when you make the wrong play call. So I mean, that's part of what you signed up for. But in general, you want to kind of have a place where you're respected and your family's respected and kind of how that works. And then the last thing I think is, again, to me, ultimately, we're doing this to impact kids and we're doing this to be around people. And like, if you're in a bad job and you're miserable, why are you wasting your time there? And so a lot of times bad jobs are the way they are because of the people who are involved in them. And that can be you, but it can also be the people you're having to work with or not able to replace or change or do different things. So to me, that's kind of what I look at. And the last thing I'll put on bad jobs is there's no vision. There's no plan. I took a job at Southside, which if you guys go back and do some research, go back to 2011 when I came in, not a good job, but there was a guy who was our superintendent who had a vision. And I came in with a vision, and those visions matched. It took longer than we wanted, but we had a vision. We knew where we were going. We were on the same page. Most unsuccessful programs fail due to lack of vision, lack of resources, or lack of leadership. If you kind of have those three things together, eventually you're going to figure it out. That's kind of how it works. So that's my kind of 2 cents on more bad jobs or why it's important to pick a good job. I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted, Daniel, but hopefully it went kind of in that way.
That's good. I love what you said about, like, even when you make a bad call, they're still going to boo you, right? They're still going to talk about how terrible. But I was blessed with the opportunity to sit through some Oklahoma 6A1 football this year. We were in the semifinals in the playoffs at Owasso playing Bixby. I know most people have heard of Bixby. Bixby is 74-2. At the time, I guess they were 72-2 in their last 74 games. And the crowd, their fans, were trying to tell them how to coach.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I'm like, you're staring at one of the most successful programs to ever happen in Oklahoma, right? And these aren't guys who got all the horses. They figured it out way early on and played way out of their realistic expectations. And y'all are telling them how to coach right now. Like, that is insane to me. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what you're always wrong. Coach Collins, why do you think we should worry about that quality of job?
I think the thing you've really got to look for is the culture. That was the important thing to me when I started looking to make a move. I wanted to go somewhere with a culture that was about doing the right things, about doing them the right way, and ended up in a place where the guy talks about Lou Holtz's 3 rules, and he's been talking about them for 34 years now in that spot. And it was do what's right, do the best you can, and show people you care. And that's the way he ran the program. And it turned that program around. He took probably one of the worst jobs in Arkansas at the time. Maybe had the longest losing streak in the state, maybe the country. It was bad. And has managed to turn it around into being one of the most winning programs. Maybe, no state championships, but consistently winning, consistently going to the postseason, and it's a school that's about football now. And there were things there that were in place that enabled him to turn that around. And then, I took over a 4A program in Oklahoma that was probably not considered anywhere close to being on the list of the best jobs to take over. I think in the previous 5 years, they had won 3 games when I took the program over. And there were some athletes there. There were some pieces there. I had been lucky. I was the DC the year before I took over. So I had some insight into it that you're going to have the ability to win some games, but we had to create some buy-in and create a turnaround in the culture. And I think that got started. I think that was evidenced. We went 5-5, which is not something you want to go tell people that's big time successful. But that was, I think, the ceiling for that program. And I talk about that was success for that town, for that program at the time. And there were things there was support there at the time that enabled that to happen. And you start looking around going, is this going to be sustainable? Is there the support here to stay here? Or is this an indication that, man, the support's really not here? We're not interested in improving the facilities, even laying out long-term plans. We are not interested in retaining coaches that are successful. We're not interested in going out and recruiting guys that are successful or training up the guys we have. There wasn't a big budget or any budget to let me take my coaches and go get them clinicked up or take them to other schools and do visits and start letting them learn things. I got really lucky that I had a guy move in that was absolutely crazy about learning new stuff and was willing to help with some of that. But seeing those signs, I think that was the time I started thinking, hey, this is not going to be a level of success that's going to be sustainable here, at least at the present time. And so you start looking to make that move to somewhere that is. And I started looking for those things, that culture of success, even if it's not on the wins. If the culture's there, I think you can eventually make that turnaround to having the success on the scoreboard.
For sure. To me, when I kind of look at the question, like, why should I worry about job quality? I can just look at my history. So it's not something I'm proud of, but I'm going into my 5th year of coaching and I'm going to my 5th school. And 2 of those I've left realistically because I wanted to, right? The first one and then the one last year, it's just too far from home. But that second job I took, I got ran off in week 3. And it wasn't even my quality of coaching. It was just a bad place to coach football, right? It was like when I talk about is your head coach, who is that person? That was not a good fit for me. But I didn't do any research. I was too new. So I left a place with a young head coach and like we could create that culture and it could have been fun. And I went to this closer to home. You look at quality of job as working in your hometown, always what you want to do. And this was a situation I shouldn't have. It got me literally blackballed in the area. That's how I ended up in Stillwell. I had to find an hour away from my house to work to coach football just because everyone I applied to just heard from the coach, right? So I think you need to worry about job quality with the things we listed earlier, mainly who are you going to be working with? What type of people are they? Because it can cost you, Kenny, you talked about time as a head coach, 3, 4, 5 years of no success to build something. It's cost me hours and hours and hours of drive time just to find a job, right? That's time I can't spend with my kids. That's time I can't spend studying ball. That's time that there's just so much going on, right? And fortunately, I am absolutely consumed with football. So it's not something I can see myself quitting anytime soon. So I had to find that next football fix. I got to go find a job. And when it's an hour and a half away, you just do what you got to do, right? So I think that's a huge reason to worry about it. The second one is just it can test you in ways. I wondered for a long time if is it me? Do I not know football? Because I was pushed out of town and it was hung on my performance as a coach. And I knew on the inside it wasn't true. But, at some point it does start to test you, like my intestinal fortitude. I think I have character. I think I bring good things to the table, but I'm not surviving at these places. Well, it's because the quality of job, mainly with that coaching office, that culture inside that building wasn't there. And I'm not a guy to stand around or stick around at a place that just it's a bad situation. I would rather look terrible and move around a lot than sit somewhere and be a part of something that's not what represents me, right? And so you can fall into that trap, right? Now, like I said, I'm 5th year, 5th school, and it's all because of one job. I didn't check that job quality of, what's it going to be like working there. So I think that's another reason. Your guys are great points as well, probably better than mine. Mine's a little bit selfish, but I've missed 3 hours a day that I could have been spending with my 5-year-old, now 6-year-old. He had a birthday a couple days ago. My 6-year-old and my 2-year-old, because I've had to drive for the last 2 years, right? So it is selfish, but it matters for my kids too. Last question here. So this is just comparing the situation you're in to a new job. And this is kind of I think we're going to title this something like, is the grass greener, right? So this is that section. How do we know, is the grass greener? Is it just greener because of all the bullshit, or is it greener because it's AstroTurf, right? So what do we do? How are we comparing? Coach Collins, we'll let you go first in this section.
I think really, I guess to speak as a head coach, I want to look at the community and the school. You've got to do some research and find out, is there the support there, and what kind of support is it? I've been in a community in a school that was absolutely not supportive of football. It was something they had to do at school because they were going to lose students if they didn't have it. And I think that may have been the only reason that they had a team. And then I've been at a school where football is extremely important. It's the place to be on Thursday night, on Friday night, on Monday night if the JV's game's going. The stands are packed. And you want to try to look into and do some research on what kind of support is that. Are they hyper supportive or hyper involved with the football program? Are you going to have to be taking meetings with some dad going, I really think you need to be in 2 tight ends and running the ball? And because I've sat through that meeting and had to listen to that guy talk about, we need to be running the ball all the time, and you need to have 2 tight ends, and you're passing the ball too much. Well, and they're not listening to the last 2 guys to have that job did that offense or some style of that offense, and it wasn't successful. And we're actually, I think we were like 2-3 at the time. Or there are people in the community that are trying to run the program, trying to be supportive and involved to the point that they have influence over you, and you don't have the autonomy that Coach Simpson talked about. Because if you've got people like that the school is going to bend to and allow to insert themselves into that program, that's probably not going to be a program that you're going to be happy in, because you're not going to get to run your program your way. And that's a big red flag that maybe you want to stay back.
Yeah, for sure. Coach Simpson.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to hit a few of these, and that was really good. I thought, one, I think you got to talk with your family. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing that a lot of coaches overlook. You know, sometimes we take a job because it's best for us, and we don't really consider, is it best for our situation? You know, like, Daniel kind of mentioned driving a long distance, or taking a job somewhere that's a better job, but you're going to be gone more, or taking your family to a place they don't really want to live. So there's a lot of things that are in there, and I think that's probably the most overlooked often. And probably a reason I've not taken a lot of jobs is our family has been happy where we are. And so why would I risk that unless it's a perfect situation? Number 2, and this one sounds, again, selfish, but money. And like one of the main reasons people are probably looking at making a move is either success or money. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones. Yeah. General rule of thumb that I was told by a principal at one point was, you don't really want to make a move financially unless you're going to make about 20% more than you were making where you were. So like to make the move and uproot your family and, go through all those expenses, 20% kind of needs to be that barometer before you even really look at it. Because, a lot of times you go, well, that's $10,000 more. Well, not with all the costs you're about to have and the move and all the other things that are part of it. So the third thing is resources. We kind of hammered that all alone, so I'm not just going to continue to hammer that. But are you going to a place that's going to give you the resources, or are you stuck in a place, Bo did a good job mentioning that is not willing to give you the resources you need to grow the program? You're growing or you're declining. You can't stand still. And a lot of times schools will tell you we're happy with where we are, which is a nice way of telling you we're not giving you what you need. And so that can go one of 2 ways. The place you're looking at going has a bunch of resources, or the place you're staying is not willing to commit to football the way you're willing to commit to them. And I kind of look at it, that's a negotiation. And so that's my next point here is a lot of times you can use jobs as leverage. I know coaches don't want to say this, and I probably shouldn't be saying it on a podcast, but you want to raise at your job, go get offered another job. I mean, that's kind of how it works. And so, that's a way you can negotiate a lot of times where, hey, this school has called me. I'm interested in talking to them. I'm probably going to go talk to them. I just want to let you guys know, I'm interested in staying here, but we've got some things we need to work on. And you'll know real quickly kind of where you stand with that school. And you can't play that card every year. Like, that's not something you can go do every year, but you could probably do it once or twice and see. They might be like, well, good luck at the interview. Well, now you know kind of where you stand. Or they might say, well, what do we have to do to keep you? And you can kind of work from there, but it lets you know, how's the school willing to work. As far as looking at the other school, the two big things I wrote down were, I always call the guy that got fired or left. Like, I always call that guy, hey, I'm looking at interviewing for this job. Tell me something I need to know about it. And that guy's going to be, he might be biased the wrong direction, but you're going to hear a lot of things that you probably need to hear. Hey, I'm leaving, it didn't work out, or I'm leaving because my family wants whatever. I mean, it could be harmless, like we've had a better opportunity. And so it could be whatever, but you're going to find out a lot of stuff from that guy. So look him up and give him a call and just tell him, hey, I'm looking at applying for this job. What do I need to know about it? The last thing I put on here was the boss. Who are you going to work for? Do a lot of research on who the superintendent is, because that guy is going to be the determining factor of a lot of these other questions we just mentioned. The same thing with and that may make you leave your job. You were hired by one guy or girl. I guess superintendents can be guys or girls. You were hired by your boss. They left, and now you have new boss. And so that sometimes can make the grass not as green. Where you bring in a guy that didn't hire you, he's not the person in your corner, or she's not the person in your corner, and you can maybe go over here and work for this person. But I think it's important. And just like if you're in the NFL, the owner you work for. If you're in high school, the superintendent that you work for, I think that person is extremely important. And a lot of times that's the most missed portion of the interview that a lot of coaches don't have. They look at everything else. They don't really research the person they're going to be answering to ultimately.
Yep. Nope. All very valid points, guys. Like I said, resources, we kind of hit it several times tonight, and it's important in multiple places. So, we needed to. I look at it a little bit different. Number one, we talked earlier about, can you be autonomous? Can you kind of do your own thing? And I think that's all the way down to the assistant level. Now, this comes with some reasoning, okay, and some understanding. Number one, you're not installing your system. You're going to do whatever the coordinator says, right? So you can't go in there and try to change everything. But kind of heard a story in the last little while about a guy who just made a PowerPoint slide to put like, hey, I'm the linebackers coach. Here's here's the things that are important to me. Your grades, your soul, whatever, right? And here's a list of here's our priorities. And like understanding that football's fun, but it's not. I'm worried about you as humans. And then that person was chastised for going out of his way to make a PowerPoint slide to communicate better with his students. And so that's something you do need to know. Like, are you going to be shunned because you want to go the extra mile, because you want to be a good coach? They talk about be where your feet are. That's the best way to be happy or to get the good job you want. Be really good at where you're at. Well, if you're being punished for being good at where you're at, maybe that's not the place to be, right? So that's kind of what you want to know. Are those people going to feel like they're outshined? Are they going to use you as the scapegoat when things go poorly? So like, what does that look like before you go take that job? And that could be assistants or coordinators. Head coach, you probably don't have to worry about outshining anyone. Second one is support with strings attached. Bo, you touched on this. If you get to a point where you're getting something extra, whatever it is, you get offered that 20%. Yeah, we'll match your 20%. We want to give you a 20% raise, or hey, the booster club wants to pay some of your money. So the school can only give you this, but we're going to give you money from booster club this way. Everything extra comes with strings attached. And so what are they? Are they strings that you can live with? Is it just win 4 games a year? Okay, well, I mean, unless that just truly is not the ceiling of the program, I have to feel like I'm going to take that challenge. Is it get to the state championship game every year? Maybe we need to have a conversation, right? Because it's really hard to get there. It's really hard to get back. Yeah, that's one of those unrealistic expectations. Is it my kid gets more playing time? I'm the booster club president, and I'm going to give you right. But my kid's got to be the starting quarterback this year, and you better throw for 5,000 yards. What are those strings, right? So what is it that you're going to be required to get that extra help? Maybe it's, hey, we are getting the field turfed this year. We're going to build this new fancy stadium, whatever. But the next head coach is coming in, got to win 8 games a year, or we're not. We're just going to rotate them. We'll recycle them until we do. And then the last point I really want to hit here is just mental health. And I know it's the one we don't like to talk about a lot as coaches, but I think you have to. And if you're feeling anxiety, you're not happy where you're at, you're feeling depressed, guys, this is a damn game. And we are just coaches coaching kids to play a game. If you aren't happy going to work every day because of the environment, go somewhere else. I have been smiles from ear to ear since spring ball started, and I am so excited. And that's what it was like last year at Owasso. And that's what I had a great time at Stillwell, right? These are places that went, and I was mentally happy coaching football. If you go in and you are dreading going to the office every day, it isn't that serious. So find something else. Whatever it is, something is weighing on that, and you don't need to have that lowered mental health, that bad mental health because of a damn game. So go out and find whatever it is that pressure is and either get it alleviated or just go on. And that might be you as an assistant coach because someone's upset that you're outshining them and they're making your life crazy. It could be you as a head coach that just has all these expectations. And Kenny, when you say, they don't ever go grab the math teacher and tell them to come, hey, you better come correct your math student, right? That once or twice I can understand, but when you become the disciplinarian for the school, the principal don't even have to do their job or the parents don't have to be held accountable. Like at some point that can weigh on that mental health. So just figure out what it is that has become that thing that's changed football, because none of us got into this job because we're like, that sounds like a miserable time. I want to go make 50% less than everyone else who went and did all the same training as me. And also I want to be miserable when I go to school every day. So if that's you, go on. And then I kind of like what Kenny says too about just calling the guy leaving. Maybe wait even a little while if you can, if there's a window of opportunity. Let him get done being mad. And then let's have a conversation about what was your day-to-day like? Were the kids coming in? Was it a fight? Right? I know head coaches that just needed to get a senior class gone because that was the cancer. Okay? That was that bad pressure. Did that happen? Is that class gone? Is that thing gone that was making it miserable? And then, that's how you can kind of compare. And then, I just think going back to that, is the grass greener or is it AstroTurf? Like that, you have to ask that question. Is this really an improvement, or are they so bad at keeping the grass green that they had to go get fake stuff and get it put in, right? And you might even ask, do they have turf? Because I am still a green grass field guy. Let's go. Put a little fertilizer down, let some Bermuda grow, and let's go. Kenny's shaking his head. Mm-hmm. Both of you are. It's rude.
I painted enough fields. I'm done with that.
All right, so liven the place back up a little bit. Sorry, I know mental health is hard to talk about, but we all deal with it. I've had sleepless nights having conversations in my head because I don't know how the next day's meeting is going to go, or I hate going to work, and I'm sure you other guys have too. And just don't let that crap keep you down. Move on. Go where you're wanted, not where you're tolerated. You know what I mean? That's kind of the quote of the show, I think. All right, last part here, what not to do as a coach. Coach Simpson, give us our lesson for the evening.
Yeah, so I put down what not to do as a coach is always be consumed with next. And I think that's just life lessons. But I talked with my daughter about this probably a couple weeks ago. But a lot of times in our lives, we think about what's coming and we look forward, and the anticipation is almost better than the experience at times, because we're looking at, hey, when I do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do whatever. We do the same in coaching. We're in a great job that we're really having a good time with. You guys mentioned we went 5-5 after going 0-10. those are great times, and you want to enjoy the moment. And a lot of times, what I'm doing in the middle of that is I'm getting my resume ready for the next job that's going to get me to 8-2, and then the next job is going to get me to playoffs, and the next job is going to get me to the ring. And while you're searching and searching and searching, you're just kind of not enjoying what's going on. And so a lot of times as coaches, we don't notice all the great time, or we don't really enjoy all the great time. The most enjoyable seasons I've had have been the last couple of years, because I thought I was going to be done after them. Like, I thought I was done being a head coach after last year. And so I was enjoying every game like it could be the last time. And now I've decided I'm going to stay on for 2 more years, and I want to enjoy these 2 years like it's the last one. And I wish I had done my whole career that way. Like, I had just enjoyed the moment, because the jobs will come and the opportunities will come. But a lot of times you kind of wish your life away when you're just, what's next? So that's my advice.
So you're telling me I have 2 years to get a house bought in Southside. Is that what you're saying?
Come on, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I always love those what not to do, because they always make sense, and they hit home in a more simplified way. So excellent. Coach Collins, we're gonna start selling getting ourselves out of here with the ads and stuff. I just want to tell you before we get going, and we're gonna get your social media and stuff, but just we appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know it's not your first time. We didn't even make you do an introduction. How about that? Didn't even have to introduce yourself. If you guys don't know who Coach Collins is, you can go back to the last time he was on and listen to his introduction from there. Dude, number one, glad to call you a friend. I'm glad that you were my head coach, and I've been super pumped to know you and be in your network. So thanks for jumping back on the show again.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's always a great time to come on here and get to talk some ball.
I freaking love talking football. I don't know if you noticed or not. So I'm sure you guys do too. All right, sweet. Once again about them ads, you can go back and listen to them. If you didn't get all the details, hit up Mark and Ryan from Ace Sports. If you need a video board, if you need a new fundraiser, you need something to liven up your football experience, your team's experience, this is a place where you can sell ads. You can put highlight videos up. Look, there's nothing better than college football game one, the hype video, right? Like, that's what I look forward to when I go over to Owen Field and watch the Sooners play. So give your team that. They can have that. I think Owasso Rams is actually done by the announcer from the Sooners games, which is crazy. Toby Rowland, I think, recorded theirs. So reach out. People will take a little bit of money and give you a cool intro thing. Do something for your community, but that is a way to do it. Reach out to Mark and Ryan. Get that next fundraiser started and give back to the community. Is it fbcoachsimpson.com? You can go find the gun tee. Kenny doesn't talk about it a lot on here, but that's really what this show is for, right? Let y'all know who Kenny is as a person, so you can trust his product. So go get that. Anything new coming out right now, Kenny? I know you just did the O-Line Academy. Is that right?
Out now. O-Line Academy, or well, it will be when this comes out. O-Line Academy. Yeah. You go to the Facebook page and you can kind of get more about it. Excited about that. I think it's going to be really, really cool. A lot of different guys talking offensive line. Comes with a book. We're running, I think, like a 1 week special. So if you're listening to this, you're probably in the middle of that, or you may be catching the end of it. But basically, we're going to give a free month of the OC Academy for those guys who want to try it out and just kind of see. O-Line Academy. And then, again, just go to the Facebook pages we have, or my Twitter or whatever, and hit me up. We'll tell you about it.
Awesome. If you're needing graphics made, Kenny's wife, Jamie, is the world's best at it. She's teaching me everything I know. Reach out to her first. If her book is full, which I know that she talked about, like she's pretty stocked, holler at me. We'll talk about some graphics work for you guys. You can also jump over to, I'm on Patreon now at Chamberlain Football Consulting. So you can jump to patreon.com. I think it's /Chamberlain Football Consulting, but you can just look me up on there. There's some really stupid packages on there, like $5 a month or something. But it's just going to be, like bi-weekly Zoom talks. We're going to have conversations. We'll have chalk talks. We'll hit chalkboard. We'll talk X's and O's. We'll talk personnel. I want to talk more ball, I guess. So I thought, what better way? Start a Patreon and then connect with guys. So if you want to jump over and support me in my young coaching career and talk some ball, I would love to. I was called a football savant recently. So all this dadgum studying is working, I guess, because it was from an outside source. So that was good. So if you need to talk to a football savant, I have the official title now. Yeah. Social media, I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Bo, where can we find you at, boss?
I've got the X. It is Coach B Collins, or at Coach B Collins. And then Coach B Collins, I think, at gmail.com is my email, although I don't answer that very much. It's mainly videos of trap and tight end dump that I share on X.
Y dump and trap. I love it.
Yes.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Kenny, where can we find you, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So FBCoachSimpson.com, FBCoachSimpson@gmail.com, or on X at FB Coach Simpson.
Was that like an era thing? Was there an era of football coaching where everybody just did football coach last name?
When I did the website, we did it, and so we just kind of matched everything up with it. So
I've seen several of them around guys about your stature, your age in the sport. So I just wondered if like you all did the same thing at the same time. Because now we're all starting podcasts. So,
Coach Simpson was taken, so I had to do something else.
Well, he started a dynasty. He didn't know it. That guy, FB Coach Simpson. It is. The podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter/X. You can jump on there and kind of talk along with us. We ask some questions sometimes, or just share little funnies, clips, things from the podcast. Coach Collins, once again, man, appreciate you. We're going to close out here. Look forward to next time you jump on, maybe next season or so.
Thank you, guys.
I want to thank you for being a listener of the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.